there are various times throughout the year that can be pretty difficult for people, whether it's an anniversary of something, somebody's birthday that maybe you don't have a relationship with anymore, who's passed away, anniversaries of loss, of specific difficult events, and holidays. Holidays for childhood trauma survivors almost always brings up some struggle. Sometimes it's very obvious what that struggle might look like or what it's about. Other times it really isn't. You may not know that there's any sort of impact on you from what's going on around you, but it might still be affecting you. So if that's something that you can relate to, welcome. I'm Peggy Oliveira. Thank you for joining me. So I would actually really like to know, is it something that you can relate to? Do you find that there are certain times of the year that maybe you're more irritable or more down, more numb, losing interest in certain things, or finding yourself needing to keep busy more so than other times? All of that is part of how we are affected. And kind of an interesting thing about it is that we can be deeply affected by it without any conscious awareness that it's bothering us. And I see this happen a lot for people that, like if their abuser has died and it's their birthday, the abuser's birthday, or maybe even the anniversary of their death, they can find that leading up to that, or maybe even afterward, they might, like I said, be more irritable or more down or frustrated or withdraw, or might use some of those not so healthy coping mechanisms a little bit more. When it comes to holidays, I think people are a little bit more just kind of aware that it could be there. Now, for you, there might be something really specific about the holidays that you're aware of that makes it difficult. And maybe it's because you have no relationship with your family, or the people closest to you in your family have passed away, different kinds of things like that. But a lot of times, part of what can creep in there is grief around not having, either now or as a child, the kinds of experiences that we see on holiday movies and television and greeting cards, even hearing people talk about it, and the happy music and all of that kind of stuff. Even without having to consciously think about it, if that's something that you've experienced as loss, whether you've named it that or not, there's a really good chance that's going to have kind of a negative impact on you. Again, may look a lot of different ways, but it's likely going to affect you in some way. So there's a few things that I think might be helpful. One is to, first of all, just bring awareness to that. Let yourself recognize that whether it's holidays, and this is holiday season, but whether it's the holidays or, again, a birthday, an anniversary, maybe a particular time of year, and it could be a time of year that something specific happened to you. It could be the time of year that something happened to your abuser or your family, time of year that it started, time of year that it ended, any number of things. But bringing awareness to when those times might be, or if you notice struggling, is there anything that is connected, is associated with this time of year, this particular holiday, this date? Maybe there's a very specific date. And you may have to think about it a little bit, because it may not immediately come to mind, because there's a good chance, if you're not already aware, there's a good chance that you have kind of separated that out. You separated out the difficult experience with it and the year, the time of date, or the date itself, the time of year, the holiday, whatever it might be. You've likely kind of created separation between those things. So sometimes it can take a little while before you really have a sense of what that might be. And I think for a lot of people, particularly this time of year, you can be pretty aware that there's certain things about it that maybe you just don't like, even if you're not connecting it to why you don't like it. The other thing I think is important is to not judge yourself about it. This is something that I have seen happen with so many people, like here in the US, and Thanksgiving is a whole other issue. But let's just pretend it is an actual holiday to celebrate, with no horrible things associated with it for yourself or for the country, for the indigenous people. Just this knowing and this awareness that it's a time that you're like supposed to be happy, right? And I put that in quotes because that is everything around us. Even a lot of people around us are like, oh, what are you doing for the holidays? Or who are you spending it with? And what are you grateful for this year? You know, there's all kinds of things like that. And people will feel like, what is wrong with me? Why don't I have anybody? Why do I not want to spend time with the people I have? Why don't I feel grateful? So being mindful of how you're speaking to yourself about that, and then using self-compassion to help you navigate through that, because you're not wrong for feeling it. You're not wrong for thinking whatever you might be thinking. You're not wrong for struggling, and you're certainly not weak. So being able to acknowledge without judgment or shame what you're feeling, what you're thinking, and or how you're struggling. Meeting it from a place of self-compassion and understanding. Really, really important. And whether it's an actual holiday or, again, time of year, whether it's Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever it might be. And even if you don't celebrate Christmas specifically or any holiday at that time representing that, the fact that pretty much everybody around you is celebrating it or acknowledging it, and there's Christmas music everywhere and all of that, even if there's a part of you that is perfectly content with not being around your family or not having a big celebration or whatever it might be, the kind of expectation that surrounds us can cause us to feel doubt, to reinforce that sense of loss. And there are many people who recognize that their family, like their family of origin, are not really the best people to be spending time with in terms of healthiness. Or maybe the people that they were close to are no longer living or no longer live in the area, or whatever the case might be. So being able to acknowledge that, being understanding with yourself, honoring the loss of that. And it is a loss, even if you know it's the best thing for you, there's still, generally speaking, going to be a lot of loss associated with that. And if somebody has passed away, whether you had a good relationship, which that seems a little bit more, I guess, obvious, but the sense of loss can be a little bit more, a lot more complicated if the relationship that you had with that person was not good, whether it was your abuser or somebody that you just were never able to tell, and so you felt disconnected from them, or maybe a part of you tried to tell and it wasn't received well. There's often a tremendous amount of loss that childhood survivors of trauma experience when the holidays are present. So it could be any holiday. But this time in the US, we celebrate Thanksgiving and usually towards the end of November. So like from leading up to that through New Year, that's often a pretty significant time for people where there's more struggle. And even in other countries where you don't celebrate Thanksgiving, people start celebrating and shopping and decorating and all of that for Christmas way before. So even by our Thanksgiving time, Christmas stuff is already out there. So there's a good, typically like month and a half leading up to the Christmas holiday or Hanukkah holiday that you can't escape it. You cannot escape the reality of the holiday season. And again, what that might mean for you. Even if you have a pretty full life and you've got friends and you have people that you spend the holiday with, whether it's your new family of origin, so maybe you have a partner and children or just a partner or whatever, but maybe you have your own family now, or maybe you spend that time with a friend or several friends, whatever it might be, you might really enjoy those relationships and not consciously think a whole lot about something that you've lost out on. But it's still not at all uncommon that on a deeper level, there might be some aspect that is creating difficulty for you. So bringing awareness to it, being gentle with yourself through it, really important, so important. And along with that, practicing different pieces of self-care. So that could be being very deliberate about doing some more obvious types of self-care things. Maybe not overscheduling yourself, maybe creating a little bit of time where you get some time to yourself or some downtime in some way, maybe even like a little getaway or something like that. Getting a babysitter for the kids for a night, those kinds of things. Those are a little bit more obvious types of things. But I think that being kind of proactive in terms of having things in place that you can, that's part of self-care that you're doing to take care of yourself. So being very deliberate about maybe giving yourself some downtime, maybe like if you've stopped therapy, maybe, and you know that you tend to struggle during this time of year, maybe being very intentional about going back to therapy during that time of year. Being very intentional about connecting with people that you do feel supported by. Even if they don't necessarily know a whole lot about your specific experiences in terms of trauma, but you feel kind of supported, you feel like they have an interest, a genuine interest in you. Now, if you feel like they would judge you if they knew about your history, that might not be the best person, particularly during this time of year. But if you have an easy relationship with them, meaning that there's no difficult feelings associated with it, being very deliberate about connecting with them. So whether you're reaching out via text or scheduling things to spend time with them, and maybe it's a group, maybe it's one-on-one, it doesn't really matter. Just whatever feels best for you. So being really intentional, basically about not isolating, because isolating is really never going to go well. It's almost always going to make you feel worse, particularly when you're struggling. So having kind of a plan in place, thinking about, okay, who are the people that I can spend some time with or reach out to just to say hi. It doesn't have to be talking about everything that's going on with you, though if there is stuff going on with you, having somebody that you can talk to about that is important. But in terms of just staying engaged with people and connecting, it doesn't have to be about really difficult stuff. It could just be about giving yourself the opportunity to be connected. That makes a huge difference because, again, loss is a huge part of this. And when we're experiencing loss around childhood trauma and all that means, it often very naturally reinforces a sense of being alone in the world and unworthy. So the thing that we can do that is going to help the most is to be connected to others. So those things are really important to do. Again, therapy, talking about the struggle, journaling. Journaling can be really helpful through this process as well, because there's a lot that's happening below our immediate consciousness for all of us. And when you're not aware of what that is and it's impacting you, as it does for all of us, the feelings, the struggle that it creates can be more significant when we're unaware of it. I've talked about that before in terms of the things that we believe and think. So journaling can be helpful in helping you understand what is truly present for you, and then being able to process it. I think it's also important to recognize that you're not alone. You're not alone in the struggle. You're not alone in the feelings and the difficulty, in the desire to be connected. Now, in all reality, I know that for some of you, you may literally be on your own. You may not, for any number of reasons, have somebody, a friend or a family member in which you feel really comfortable and safe with, that you'll be spending time with over the holidays. I understand that that is the reality for some people. I also understand that the reality is for some of those people that it isn't so much that you literally have nobody, it's that you don't trust that you have somebody. You believe that they don't really care. You believe that you'll be a burden. You believe any number of things, or fear any number of things that will make you believe or think that it's not okay to reach out to them or to spend time with them. And if you're watching this video, there's a really good chance that you know exactly what I'm talking about. So while it may feel like you literally have nobody, that may not be the entire picture. So I think it's just important to recognize that. You may fear the vulnerability in spending time with that person, or asking, what is that person doing, or reaching out to that person and say, hey, how's it going? Or that person reaches out to you, being able to say, I'm kind of struggling right now. I get that feels incredibly vulnerable. But being able to try to push through that with somebody who is likely going to be supportive of you is an important part of healing. And during difficult times, not only is it important for healing, but it can actually go a long way in those moments in shifting how you're feeling. So if the holiday season is difficult for you, please try to keep some of these things in mind. I know it's easier said than done. I know there's a lot that goes into it. But you've heard me say so many times that healing is a process and a practice. And this is the process, and doing those things is the practice. Both of those pieces are how you ultimately get to the other side. And while I'm specifically talking about like healing or holidays and anniversaries and that sort of thing, difficult specific time periods, that is true for all of healing. So be gentle with yourself. Be intentional about staying connected, bringing awareness to what might be going on with you. And journaling is such a great way to do that. Taking care of yourself in little ways. It doesn't have to be something big, but if you can do something big, then yes, please do something big, but it doesn't have to be. Distraction, healthy distraction can be really great. If, for example, Christmas is difficult for you, maybe don't watch Christmas movies. Maybe avoid as best you can, but it's virtually impossible, I think, to not by yourself especially go into places where there's a lot of Christmas decor and music. Now, if you've got somebody with you, then you're likely going to be engaged with them and you won't be taking in quite as much around you. But if you're on your own, you're likely going to be hearing the music. You're going to be seeing all the stuff around you. You're going to be noticing families together or couples together, or whatever it is you feel like you've missed out on. And that can be difficult. Doesn't mean I want you to avoid it altogether, but be intentional about it so that when you leave the place, whatever that place is, you immediately reach out to somebody via text or phone or whatever, or you have a plan to get together with somebody afterward. Basically being really kind of intentional and even preemptive during this holiday season. And please know that even if you are not around people that know your story, know your struggle, you are not alone. Just in the people that are going to watch this video, there are many, and I can't give you an idea of how many because I don't know how many people will see this video, but I can guarantee, and if you follow me for a while, you know that I guarantee practically nothing. I can guarantee that there will be other people watching this exact video during this season who feel similarly, who are struggling similarly. And if you feel comfortable, if you're one of those people and you feel comfortable, I think it would be amazing to share that in the comments. And if you're somebody watching this, look in the comments. Is there somebody else who has acknowledged that? And even if somebody isn't necessarily struggling in the exact same way, we're all here for the same reason. Even if this particular video isn't where somebody is at right now, we're all here for the same reason. We have so much in common and we have struggled in so many of the same ways, even if we may not be struggling in that specific way right now. There were so many years that I was so disconnected around Christmas. Some of you may not already know this, but while my mom and I did not have the healthiest relationship, my mom died on Christmas Day and my children were quite young, and I hated the holiday. I felt horrible guilt because my children deserved better than a mom who tried to pretend it didn't exist on an emotional level. I've worked through that guilt now, but I personally know, and even before my mom died on Christmas, I didn't necessarily love Christmas. But there could be any number of reasons that anybody watching this might struggle with this holiday season. So please know that you are not alone. And as I'm recording this and as the holiday season approaches, and even if you're watching this next year, in 5 years, whatever it might be, I will be thinking about this community. And I will be energetically sending you so much peace and healing and connection. I'd love to hear from you. Please connect in the comments. If you found this helpful, please give it a thumbs up. If somebody that you know might find benefit in it, please consider sharing it. And of course, if you haven't yet subscribed, make sure to do so and click the bell for notifications. I'll look forward to seeing you soon.